All right, so it was New Year's Day that we had the discussion about that massive motherboard leak that hit for Nintendo Switch 2. It seems like we've seen just about everything we need to see at this point in terms of what to expect from the console, minus some one-offs, because while we do know things like 12 gigabytes of RAM are now essentially a shoo-in and confirmed, there is still some debate online around the size of the processor that might be included in it, and it's not an end-all be-all for performance, but if it's 5 nanometer, that's going to be better for power consumption in handheld play than an 8 nanometer process. But again, stuff like that we'll find out once Nintendo actually starts shipping out this console and detailed teardowns happen, and I think everything as far as the graphics power and performance of the console will more or less be put to bed once we see what kind of games can actually run on it, and that should be something we will learn about from Nintendo themselves at their first look trailer. But one thing we also briefly touched on towards the end of that motherboard video was this big new AI upscaling patent that Nintendo had filed. Now, there's some confusion online because there has been AI upscaling patents from Nintendo in the past, mainly due to cloud gaming and kind of outlining how Nintendo could maybe send a smaller image to a server and then upscale it to basically not have so much latency or delay with cloud gaming. And the new patent that hit was actually made public for the first time on December 31st, 2024, but Nintendo did file it back in July, but it was not public. So this is technically new information coming straight from Nintendo's own official patent filings, and I want to dive into that topic deeper today, in addition to, towards the tail end of this video, mentioning why some online are expecting a big wave of Nintendo Switch 2 questions to potentially be answered from an accessory manufacturer at CES on January 7th, and there's a reason I do want to go through that, because don't set too much hopes and expectations if you're seeing people talk about it online. It seems like it probably won't reveal anything we don't already know about the console, but you can't say for sure. But bigger and more important is just that this patent, along with the chipset that we saw being from Nvidia on the leaked motherboard, now more or less definitively confirms that Nintendo will indeed be using this DLSS upscaling tech, probably some customized version of it, which we will dive into as well, for Switch 2. And when you're seeing some comments and debates online about it maybe not being as powerful as a PS4 Pro from people like Tom Warren online, context matters, and this AI upscaling system can make all the difference in how the games will end up looking and running when it's all said and done. So we're going to get on the same page with all of this info. Before we do, make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on your bell notification to join Sunbro Nation if you're new here. And I want to first kick it off by hopping over to VGC and reading through their detailed typed up article about the patent and a couple examples that were provided from the patent, and then we will go into exactly what this means for Nintendo Switch 2's game performance at the end of the day. New Nintendo patent appears ahead of expected Switch 2 reveal. Nintendo's latest filing adds weight to the expectation that it will use DLSS style upscaling. A patent filed in July 2023 but published on Tuesday describes a system of machine learning that can convert images of one resolution into a higher one. DLSS, deep learning super sampling, or similar technologies work by using AI to upscale the resolution of games, effectively allowing developers to achieve higher graphical settings and better frame rates on weaker hardware. Sony's recently launched PlayStation 5 Pro utilizes its own upscaling technology, PSSR, at a platform level, while AMD's FSR is a popular solution on other consoles, which is utilized on a game-by-game basis. It's been reported previously by VGC and other outlets that Nintendo is planning to utilize a DLSS-style technology on its next system, which could provide a significant advantage considering the technical constraints faced by portable devices. As noted by journalist Laura Kate Dale, the new patent mentions using upscaling technology to reduce overall game sizes to fit a modern game onto a smaller capacity physical media, for example, game cards. The example given is that a game with native 4K textures might need a 60 gigabyte download, but a 1080p native version might only need 20 gigabytes, which would allow it to fit on a 32 gigabyte Switch cart, the current max size Nintendo produces for Switch 1. The idea being to do a 4 times upscale on the device in real time. Okay, so the example given in this article about saving on game file size is definitely a big benefit of Nintendo using this DLSS style AI upscaling technology, but it's not the biggest in my opinion. Although, because of the motherboard leak, we now know there is a cartridge slot in this console, and it does appear to support physical media, which I would very much not expect Nintendo to ditch yet at this point in time. Anyway, we know to expect that Nintendo is going to care about just how much each cartridge costs, and the bigger you go in size, obviously the more cost that goes to Nintendo, so they would have some interest in making sure that they don't have to have native 4K textures baked into every big release. And AI upscaling is kind of a cheat code in how to get 4K resolution when your base game is actually not running at that. And on that note, multiple times within this patent document, it is cited about games running as low as like a 540p resolution, even citing 480p at one point, and upscaling to 1080p. And that's going to be the game changer when it comes to this console's performance in handheld play, because yes, running things near 4K resolution would be essentially impossible right now with handheld technology. But if the native resolution is significantly lower than that, and you're not even targeting 4K in handheld play at all, we're expecting this to have a 1080p panel on the actual LCD display. Well, then you're talking about taking a 480p and or 540p image and upscaling that to 1080, a much lower base workload for the GPU to be taking place, just because of the nature of how much more a GPU has to ramp up and work when that native resolution is high, and AI is definitely the game changer technology. And there's also some conversation around why would Nintendo need to file a patent for this if DLSS is already an established tech that we see from their partner Nvidia, who's producing the chipset for this. And it's likely that Nintendo, while partnering with Nvidia and DLSS is the tech they're patenting here, they probably worked on a heavily customized chip. It's not just, we know it's the T239, but it's not just going to be comparable to any other base chip that Nvidia has put out there. It might be in the same kind of general power range as some other chips that they've produced, but it's not going to be a one-to-one comparison. And this is something that was developed at length over years and years with Nvidia and Nintendo, and there's probably some custom processes that are happening in order for this exact type of DLSS tech to exist. And Nintendo probably came to Nvidia with the focal point that, hey, we want a much lower base resolution requirement, and we still want the games to be upscaled to 1080p in handheld and a 4K upscale in docked mode, and we need to do it in a way that can also help with file size. And that's where we have to kind of tie things back to the whole power controversy or power level controversy that's appearing online around Switch 2. I mean, I don't know if people were expecting a portable PS5 and a handheld at this point in time, but we are not there yet in the terms of raw power. But just like we're seeing from Sony's own mouths, I mean, Mark Cerny going into a detailed presentation around the PS5 Pro and talking about how while there is a more powerful GPU in that PS5 Pro, the big technology and game changer is PSSR, which is a developed technology between them and AMD. And by all accounts, AMD's AI upscaling tech is not caught up to Nvidia's at this point. DLSS appears to be the clear winner in a lot of cases, but Mark Cerny is just straight up saying that GPUs are reaching a point where you're not going to be able to go too much further with them in terms of making the games look better, and that's where you go the route of AI to really come in and make things that weren't possible now possible. And that's what Nintendo will be doing with their next generation hardware on a raw power basis level, like teraflops, and just comparing things one-to-one from what processors are running in these consoles. You could say that maybe the Nintendo Switch 2 is not going to be on paper as powerful as a PS4 Pro, like what Tom Warren was suggesting, but the big asterisk there that you have to remember is that it doesn't need to be as powerful from a raw technical perspective, because when it wants to get to a 4K image, it's actually working with the native resolution of 1080p and upscaling that to 4K. And when you're in handheld play, you're at 480 or 540p and upscaling that to 1080p. So it is a totally different conversation to be had. And I think all of the concern around this should go away once we see Nintendo actually reveal some games to us and show it running on their next gen hardware. But for now, sit tight and stay on the sidelines. We don't have to wait too much longer. And that's where I want to briefly talk about part 2 of the video, which is just a quick mention that there is an accessory manufacturer that will be at CES, essentially saying that they're going to be willing to answer any Switch 2 questions available to people. This is something that, while I would want to get excited about it, we're going to read through the exact tweet and then actually some details from Nate the Hate or Direct Feed Games over on Twitter that I do think does a good job of summarizing why, you know, you really shouldn't be expecting too much from this, and it's probably more of a publicity stunt to get people coming by their booth. But we do of course have that one rumor coming from that Chinese Weibo account of a user that essentially created a countdown that ends January 8th. Then they backtracked everything, deleted all their posts, and saying that it's not about Switch 2. You never know. It may or may not happen then. It is the week that CES is going on, which would be interesting timing for Nintendo to reveal the hardware. There's another rumor that suggests it's more towards the end of January. I'm not getting caught up on all of that. It's going to happen soon enough at this point, but you can first see the direct schedule post from Genki, which is an accessory manufacturer for Nintendo Switch and will no doubt continue to be one for Switch 2. And it says Tuesday, January 7th, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Introducing Genki accessories and Switch 2 info. Will be featured at the entrance to Eureka Park for 4 hours. Get to meet the team at Genki, the most crowdfunded game hardware brand at Kickstarter ever. We'll be sharing the products we've just finished crowdfunding as well as a peek of what's next. Happy to discuss any Switch 2 info we may have as well as the stuff we're making for it. Now, Nate from Direct Feed Games says chime in on this and say officially licensed partners, be it accessory makers / developers, cannot acknowledge the Switch 2 in any capacity due to NDA. Genki, like D brand, are not officially licensed partners, hence they are not under NDA, nor have been officially briefed on Switch 2 and can say anything. So where I am personally setting my expectations for this is, yes, Genki will be showing off in-person Switch 2 accessories that people are going to be able to hold and see and do all of that kind of stuff to promote it. And similar to D brand, they're going to say, we have a 3D scan of this console, or we got the exact dimensions of it. We know which buttons are on it, which ones aren't. They might have some ideas or guesses at what each button function actually does, but similar to a lot of how the other CEOs from accessory manufacturers have gone on record stating, you know, they know the specifics of the device, but they don't really know exactly what everything does. It's going to be another one of those situations, and I do think that when it comes to brand new, meaningful Switch 2 functionality and information, it's probably not going to be here. Maybe it happens that same week if Nintendo gets their announcement out of the way early, but it's not going to come from this accessory manufacturer. But you will probably get to see some pretty cool hands-on footage with some of the Switch 2 accessories and some nice side-by-side comparisons and a lot of different videos. So we may end up covering that if something interesting does indeed come out of CES on the 7th. But at this point in the video, I want to hear from you guys. What do you make of both these different updates around NVIDIA's AI upscaling technology now being found in Nintendo's direct patent from July 2023, but published on New Year's Eve? Are you excited that further reinforcement around Nintendo using this tech is just good news for their game performance of their next gen console overall? What do you think about Genki showing up, just straight up saying they're going to be answering Switch 2 questions at CES on their show floor? Do you think it's more of a publicity stunt to get people to come out? Do you think they have some new nuggets of information that we don't already have of Switch 2? And bonus, let me know what, if anything, you're most looking forward to from CES in general being potentially revealed there. So make sure you share all your thoughts and feelings in the comments down below before you leave, regardless if we agree or disagree. Also, make sure you like, subscribe, turn your notification bell. And with that, I've been Sunbro, you've been Nation. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.